Well, good evening, freedom fighters and Alberta patriots. It's a cool, crisp day here in Alberta, and those of you who've been outside have felt the bite of the cold northern polar cap that's blowing our wind down here. But nevertheless, we Albertans are rough and tough, and we have to carry on. But we certainly live in tough times when it comes to government. I want to say intervention into our lives, and to add to that, the challenge of the weather. Want to talk a little bit about the Keystone XL tonight, but maybe I'm going to start off a little bit with the continued government fear mongering that continues at an incredible rate. I'm just shocked day after day how they can get away with perpetuating this fear mongering and not doing anything to instill confidence in the people or to reduce the animosity between those who are whether they're desperate and have to open their businesses, or those who want to go out and enjoy skating or get together, whether it's for a choir and singing. There's so many things that the government has stripped away from us and telling us that this is a menace, this is a danger to society. We can't and we shouldn't participate. We shouldn't be doing these things. And it's just wrong. It's categorically wrong. And we need more and more people to stand up to it. And those that are on the fearful side and those who have legitimate concerns, that's understandable. But you can't step out and tell people that you can't carry on your life because I'm too afraid to carry on mine. And this is the problem. And it's quite amazing to me. And, if you go back for the last few years and the anti-bullying campaigns that have been going on and saying how wrong it is to bully and to do these things, yet that is exactly what government is doing with this COVID dilemma that they've presented to us, the bullying and the peer pressure of those who want to go out and, according to the government stuff, risk their lives, risk their businesses, and to carry on is phenomenal. And it's got to come to an end, and we need to start to have some more respect and tolerance and understanding of those people who have a strong desire or need to get out and to carry on life. That the only real solution to this is going to be what you call population or herd immunity. And for those people that are brave enough and strong enough to go out and take this on, we shouldn't be having those that are fearful turning against those individuals. And the stories that we're hearing of what different people are doing and saying to others is unacceptable. It's bullying, it's intimidation, and the government seems to be the root of this, and health officials that have no skin in the game, that they sit up there at the top on their pedestals and enjoy declaring edicts that this is safe, this isn't safe. When we go back and look at it, you have to wear a mask, don't wear a mask, double mask. It's unbelievable. And so we need to step back and to understand that what this government is doing is demoralizing. It's taking away our self-worth, our belief in ourselves, a belief in the future, and it's painting a bleak, dreary, gloomy winter to where we just hope that we can all huddle down and come out in the spring like a bear who's been hibernating and be okay. But that's not the way it's going to work. Instead, we're going to continue to see deaths in businesses. Individuals impact life, their emotional, their physical well-being is impacted. But probably the most upsetting is what we're doing to our children and our children's future with scaring them, the fear mongering of this COVID virus, when in fact it doesn't have an impact on them. That has a lower impact than the regular influenza or the regular flu. And again, that's probably the other alarming thing, is that not only can they not get the vaccine now, but they're not upfront and honest about it, and sharing the best science, in the fact that everything that I've seen and read, they said, well, even if we have the vaccine, we still can't go out and about because we could get infected a second time. Or it's just unbelievable to me that everything and anything that we do isn't good enough, and we're going to have to stay, in isolation. And what does this all go back to? What's the root of the cause? For me, there's no question about it. Our prime minister announced it last September proudly in front of the UN and other groups that this is a great opportunity to enhance the great global reset. And Alberta is a real problem for the global reset because it's the bastion of freedom. It creates the oil and the gas that can go around the world to enhance people's lives, the technology, the innovation, the environmental advances that we have here are all a benefit throughout the world. And they see this as the root of the problem. And because of that, there's been a vicious attack going back for years, back before 2008. The attack began. And I'm sure that you remember in 2008, well, let's go back a little bit earlier to 2006, when Prime Minister Harper took office and he talked about the great economic opportunity and where Alberta and Canada would be because of the prosperity that we would enjoy because of the development of the oil and gas industry here in Alberta, and that it was going to dominate and produce very well for us. And it has, and it did in the past. But in 2008, we ran into, I want to say, a glass wall, an incredibly thick glass wall, bulletproof glass wall, because Obama became the president of the United States, and he shut the door on us by canceling Keystone XL. And I have to confess, I was actually quite excited when he did that, because I thought, wow, this now gives our prime minister the opportunity to declare this a national importance and to get a pipeline to the West Coast to sell our gas, not at Western Texas Intermediate, but Brent prices, which are usually even higher. And instead, we're stuck with Western Canada Select prices, which, you know, over the last couple of years, I think a lot more people have become aware of the differential price between Western Canada Select and Texas Intermediate. And sometimes that can be as high as 25, 30. I think I've even seen it as high as $40 a barrel intermittently, and then it comes back down. But generally, I would say, and again, I'm just speculating here over my years of watching that I would say it's between, you know, $18 and $24 a barrel discount because of our constrained ability to export and have captured, what they have a captured client in that we need to sell to the US, and therefore they can have a huge discount because where else can we sell to? And we've been punished. Canadians, Albertans, and our businesses have been punished for decades, and we've lost hundreds of billions of dollars because of that. And so for me, when Obama shut down the Keystone XL, I thought, oh, hallelujah, we will now realize that we need to sell to the world, and that the Keystone XL will not be our main pipeline, but we will put pipelines to actually to the West Coast. It's interesting, back then in 2008, 7, 8, I believe we had 5 companies that proposed to the provincial government to build upgraders so that we could upgrade our oil to a product that's saleable and wanted. And at that point, our government says, oh, no, 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 we don't want that many. We just want one. And basically chased away 5 upgraders and says, oh, we're going to put a cap. We don't want to emit too much CO2. That just wouldn't be the fair thing. We'll let other areas around the world do it, but we're not going to. And we're going to buy into this gobbledygook of a cap on Canada, on Alberta, on the oil sands in order to somehow save the world. And what a fairy tale story that has been, with terrible endings. And just the economic cost of that has been incredible. And then again, our Premier Stelmach ended up giving it to Northwest Upgraders, who the president there said this is the best economic opportunity of his life because he didn't have to run it efficiently. We were going to pay him so many dollars a barrel. And Ted Morton has written some very good articles on that and the cost. Even when they were implementing it, Ted was against it and spoke out, but nevertheless, government went ahead with that Northwest Upgrader, and not to the benefit of Albertans, whereas the other 5 have all been chased out. And I could go on for a half hour about the other ones that have been chased out, because we had a First Nations group that were trying, had a proposal to create an upgrader and a pipeline, and Alison Redford stymied that and says, oh no, we're not going to accept that, we're just going to accept one. And she just accepted the French Total proposal at that time. And again, government picking and choosing winners at our demise as Albertans. And so these are very frustrating things. But anyways, to go back to XL and the fact that we had this opportunity now to declare it a national interest and we need to get our product to Tidewater. We had the Northern Gateway going through a long, onerous process to get the okay. And in 2013, after what I would say was a ridiculous process, and I guess I want to back up to 2009 when they were opening up for consultations, and I think they had over 5,000 applicants. And they said, oh my goodness, this is going to take us over 2 years. I had the opportunity to meet one of the NEB board members, and I said to him, this is just unacceptable and crazy. I says, I don't care if you need to rent 2, 3, 4 hotels. You rent them, you hire the individuals to set up the panels, and we will listen to these 5,000 applicants in the next 60 or 90 days. Why on earth would we space it out over 2 years? And so there again, to me, government failed us, failed the industry, failed Alberta workers, failed Alberta families, because they said, oh, we're going to consult for 2 years. It was just unacceptable. But anyways, I had some really negative feedback from my comment to that board member and the importance of expediting the hearings to get on with this, because many of those people never even showed up, but yet they scheduled that over a 2-year period. It's just unbelievable to me at the time. Long story short, doesn't matter who the prime minister is, they're more worried about catering and keeping their votes in Eastern Canada than the economic well-being of Canada, let alone Alberta. And what happened is that the Northern Gateway got sacrificed on the altar before it was even able to get shovel in the ground. And again, Albertans were wrong, the industry were wrong, and yet we carry on. And again, when Prime Minister Trudeau took office, basically the Conservative government had set up just a tap-in for them to finish closing it off. And they brought in Bill C-48 to start with to shut the tanker ban to the West Coast, which again, are you kidding me? These tankers are phenomenal, and they had all kinds of what would I say, safety issues in place, from local pilots to bring those boats in and tugboats. And what we need is to repeal Bill C-48, but we know that that's a pipe dream. Sorry for the pun, but it's not going to happen. And so what we're left with was, when Trudeau got in, put in Bill C-48, and then when the new, well, it was 2013 when the NEB gave the go-ahead for the Northern Gateway, but Trudeau created the Canadian Energy Regulator and basically shut that down. And so one of the things that Premier Kenney, of the several things that Premier Kenney needs to do, is to demand, now that the XL has been shut down, that they accept the Northern Gateway pipeline and allow it to go through. The application has been okayed. They have all the details, what needs to be done. And Premier Kenney needs to tell the Prime Minister that they need to immediately allow for Northern Gateway to go ahead. Another very upsetting thing, again, with the TMX, we saw how it got drugged down and came to a stop because the government didn't enforce the rule of law and allowed protesters to shut down a multi-billion-dollar project. And then, so what did the government do? What did Trudeau do? Oh, we'll buy it. Then it will become, it belongs to us. It's okay if we operate it. And again, at a probably loss in a very inefficient way, which will cost the oil industry more, because the efficiency of building that pipeline is directly correlated to the dollars per barrel that they'll charge for shipping oil through that. And all of the owners' new ideas are putting on there, over and above the safety mandate that they had, is going to cost us more money to get our product to the ocean. But the bottom line is that Trudeau's allowed this to be shut down. There was a death on it, COVID, and he needs to immediately begin the work on the TMX again, and this needs to get done, whereas I fear it's not going to, and Premier Kenney's not doing anything about it. So we absolutely need to get the TMX back on schedule and working. We need the Northern Gateway approval. and we need Bill C-48 approved. But one of the other interesting things is the Spirit River, and can't believe I can't read my own writing here, but I want to make sure I say it right. But the Indigenous Eagle Spirit Pipeline Corridor is another just exciting opportunity that we have. And if the Prime Minister and our Premier want to talk about helping the Indigenous people and becoming more self-sufficient and have an economic opportunity, this should be fast-tracked. And the Canadian Energy Regulator needs to go ahead and accept that, put out, check the parameters. But this should be fast-tracked and available in short order, that we can get shovel in the ground here right away on that project. But again, this isn't about oil and gas. This is about freedom. This is about health and wealth. And if Alberta is healthy and Alberta is wealthy, that's not good for the globalists. That's not good for the Great Reset. And they want us hurt. They want us as a have-not province. And they've got us in a chokehold, and they're kicking us while we're down. And this is unacceptable. And Premier Kenney, it's time that you stand up and say so. And many people will say, well, what can you do? You know, what can we do? Well, the biggest thing is that we need to start putting our house in order that we can be independent and that we're not at the whims of Ottawa and sitting here, please, sir, can we have some more? No, this isn't good. What we need is a strong leader who is telling Ottawa enough is enough, no more, and then starts doing what we need to do so that we can be self-sufficient and independent from Ottawa. And I've talked about this many times. I'll talk about it again tonight. We need to create inside the Ministry of Treasury and Finance Board the Alberta Revenue Agency. And we need to let Ottawa know that we will be hiring Albertans and we'll be collecting all of the taxes, every nickel, every dime in this province, and we'll be collecting them at the provincial treasurer. And at that point, we will review and see what federal programs that we accept, and we'll send money down, whether it's for the military, whether it's for border security, whether it's for intelligence, whether it's to be part of NORAD, whatever it might be that we as Albertans realize it's in our best interest, we're happy to support and to send the money down. But number one, we need to create that Alberta Revenue Agency inside the provincial treasurer and finance board right now. Number two, it's time to say ça la vie. No longer do we need the RCMP that is at the beck and call of Ottawa. When they want something done, they get to basically have the final say, and we don't have control of that. We need the Alberta Provincial Police Force and those people working for us. And I know many will say, oh man, that's bad. Look at the Calgary police and the tickets that they're handing out, and look at the Edmonton. I don't know they've been handing out as many in Edmonton, but just look around the province at all the tickets. Well, with civilian oversight, we can at least get that under control. But currently under the federal, we can't. We need our own Alberta pension plan. This idea that we're sending billions of dollars extra to the Canada pension plan, which again has an incredible unfunded liability to it, we could actually be building one that is like the teachers plan, that's like the Ontario teachers, the Quebec pension plan, that's actually fully funded and doing well. And again, as a side note, breaking news, it's just unbelievable that our Premier has taken the Alberta teachers pension plan and put that into the Keystone XL. I mean, who didn't see that coming with this election? Trump, you know, he gave the okay, 4 years ago, but he wasn't able to get it built. And yet we see private industry and stuff pulling out. And so our provincial government steps in and uses the teachers pension fund. This is why people have no trust in government, when they act on their own accord and not in the best interest of the people that they're supposed to be serving and protecting. Major problems, unacceptable. And what do we do about it? Well, that's why we've created and started the Wild Rose Independence Party of Alberta, because I don't know any other vehicle or possibility of how we save our province in the future for our children and grandchildren. And so that's why we're doing this. And just an incredible group of volunteers that work tirelessly to create and to continue to build this party and the policies that we have. But it's just exciting to see that work that's going on. Those are three things that we need to do. Premier Kenney can very much announce and say, if we cannot get our product to Tidewater, which again, under section 121, maybe I'll read it again. I'll start being notorious for pulling out the Constitution and reading it every now and then, because people keep talking about it. But Section 121, all articles of growth, produce, manufacture of any one of the provinces shall, from and after the Union, be admitted free into each of the other provinces. So get that up there so you can see that. Canadian Constitution. But what does it say? Shall be admitted free into each of the other provinces. Well, that certainly hasn't been happening. And so when people say, oh, the Constitution, well, they're not playing by the rules. And we can pretty much play by the rules. And again, the retaliatory measures is that we need to shut down the imports from Vancouver that's going to Eastern Canada. If we can't ship our oil out and there's a ban saying that tankers can't come, well, it's very clear to me that we'll shut down all the exports that want to go to Eastern Canada, and they can start finding their retail items that they want somewhere else in the world, or as we have to go the long route and pay some extra, whether it's through trains in the US and bring it back up and go through US companies. But if we can't get our oil and gas out, well, I'm sorry, we're shutting the door on the retail products that you want to bring in from the Asian market. But those are just a few things that we can and we should do. We need to step up and again do our best, because the fear mongering that they're instilling on our children and our businesses, and the compliance and the tickets that they're handing out, and going to clog up the courts with that, and the people don't have the time to go and to plead their cases. Many of them are being thrown out. Other people, I've heard that they're on the docket, and when they get there, I was speaking with Randy Hillier, the MPP from Ontario. He was supposed to have his day in court on the 7th of January with a $100,000 fine. And when he showed up and was there, it wasn't on the docket. And at the end, he asked, like, where am I? Why am I not there? This was my day in court. And they just said, well, we don't know. Well, we'll let you know when it's rescheduled. This is unacceptable. This isn't rule of law. This isn't the justice system. This is a legal loophole, and it's garbage what our governments are doing and what they're doing to people over this. We need our day in court, and if we're not allowed to have our day in court, then it should be thrown out. And those losses of these individual businesses and other ones need to be acknowledged. And it's not about CERB payments. It's about the damages done to individuals and their businesses. And we need to have our day in court. But sorry, I get kind of worked up over that. And these tickets, I remember meeting one very nice lady in Calgary a few weeks back, and got a $1,200 ticket. $1,200. She drove in to come to the Freedom Walk rally, and that's what she was handed by the Calgary Police Services. Unacceptable. These people that are being hijacked at our airport. It's unacceptable. It's very easy for our premier to arrest these individuals when they come off federal grounds at the airport and say, you know what, this kidnapping is not going to go forward here in Alberta. He could and he should do something, and I agree, and I've called for his resignation. If he won't protect Albertans, then he should resign, and he should go back to Ottawa or somewhere else where he thinks he belongs, and those birds of a feather, they can fly together. And that's my segue into a happy ending. That few years back, I got the opportunity to go to the Smithsonian Institute, and I've always, I think, I've said two of the greatest things that have happened in my, I guess when I look back in history, is one is the invention and the use that we have refrigeration. And I think that's a great blessing. But the biggest one is antibiotics and how that changed the world, and medicine. And again, vaccinations and antibiotics and the medical advances were really breakthroughs. And again, it's just changed people's lives. But the one that's for enjoyment and pleasure that I always found was fascinating, and something that I've always wanted to do, and I've had the opportunity to fly an ultralight, but is flying. That, when you talk about humankind and the desire to soar to new heights and to fly and accomplish the impossible, I go back to the Wright brothers and their flight at Kitty Hawk. And anyways, when I went to the Smithsonian, and here's the old picture. Who'd want to go flying in something like that? David, you want to switch it up to the next picture? Um, Here's an actual picture at the Smithsonian of this. And David, if you want to take that down for a minute, I'll have you bring it back again. But seriously, who in their right mind would want to jump on that the contraption and think that they were flying? That really is putting your life at risk. And sorry, COVID virus, you don't rank in there. But what was fascinating when they were trying to conquer the air and understanding the physics of lift and what they needed to do and how many square inches of wingspan they needed, it was a real engineering feat. And I'm sure many of you have read that they actually used the petticoat material that their mother or someone had in order to build the wings that was light enough but strong enough in order to resist the wind. But we really do soar together, and we are all in this together. And this idea that this government has picked winners and losers, and the divisiveness and the bullying that's going on is to our detriment. And we need to rethink this paradigm and say, what and how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to soar to new heights? How are we going to take off? But to go back to the Kitty Hawk, and if you want to put up that picture now, David, for a minute, if you see there, the engine was on the right side of the aircraft and the pilot was on the left side. And if you can see in there, there's all kinds of wires and gadgets and whatnot in order to try and fly. But what they were trying to do there was to balance out this aircraft, because if they couldn't balance, they had a problem. And you can come back off there now, David, if you want. If you watched those early flights, what you saw is that they would take off and they would get up, and then all of a sudden they'd lose their balance, and ooh, they'd start to tip this way, or they'd start to tip the other way, and balance was incredibly difficult. And I've always compared, since my early days of studying economics, is that government has to balance its social programs with its economy. And so that engine, the right side of the Kitty Hawk, I call it the Kitty Hawk, but I'm not sure what the actual name was. It happened in Kitty Hawk. The engine was over there, and that weighed more than the pilot. And they tried to balance it, but they couldn't do it. And so what they actually ended up doing was building the wing on the right side of the aircraft 6 inches longer than the one on the left side. And the pilot, they tried to center them both as close as they could to balance all of this. But again, in order to stop it from tipping left or right, they didn't discover and create ailerons early on. But what they did is they had an incredible amount of cables that went from, like, he was kind of laying in a sled on that airplane, and he would push hard to the left or hard to the right, and that would pull these cables and actually twist the wings, and that's how they tried to balance it, was with this torque of twisting the wings, much like you see a bird, how it can just tip its wings. But balance was incredibly difficult. And so what we have to do, if we're going to recover from this, we can't just look at, well, we got to protect our healthcare system. We have to protect our economy. We have to protect our engine, that the drive, the thrust. And again, when governments talk about the importance of growing the GDP, it's true. It's critical that needs to go over there. And you can't have our social programs outweighing our economic ones, and the deficits that we have run up, I should say, my goodness, that our current governments have run up at our expense with nothing to show for it, is alarming and unacceptable. And if we don't say no and send in messages and phone calls and talk to our elected people and say no more, the opportunity for us to take off again and to see a recovery in our economy is diminishing every day and every dollar that they spend. And so what we need to do is to have that government balance. Governments have to balance their budgets. And again, if we let those social programs and the healthcare carry on and saying, oh no, that's all we got to worry about is healthcare, that we can't collapse that. Well, if we collapse our economy to say we're protecting our health care, we will have neither. And it goes back to that saying that's been said so many times. And again, if we choose safety over freedom, we will have neither. And if we choose safety of our healthcare over the freedom of Albertans and workers and those who want to have recreational games and then to play and enjoy ourselves, we will end up with neither. Maybe we'll last 6 months, maybe a year, but our future is being undermined and destroyed in front of us. But anyways, that was my big thing for today is the importance of freedom, that we need to get our pipelines given the thumbs up and the go ahead. Our premier needs to fight for those, for the Northern Gateway, for the Eagle Spirit corridor, for the TMX, and he needs to start doing something about it. He needs to start collecting our taxes and saying no more to Ottawa. He needs to shut down the import of goods. If we can't export, sorry, neither can Eastern Canada import. It's just that simple. And we need to stand up for ourselves. We need to put pressure on our premier to stand up or else resign. One of the two. And again, as I've said many, many times, and I will continue, we need accountability. And that accountability, Premier Kenney, is recall. Pass the legislation, put the people back in charge. You know it's the right thing to do. Have the courage to do the right thing. But with that, I'm going to say thanks everybody for tuning in today, and we'll talk a little bit more this coming week on some of the other things that we need to do, and I'm going to talk a little bit about taxes probably next time. But anyways, thank you and take care, and we'll see everybody again soon. Good night.